Travis Mangetzel. So, as is the tradition, when I go out, I end up sleeping extra from being worn out. So, this is part 2 of Mormon's hate comments. And so, yeah, I noticed lately that with the videos I've done, getting more bolder for you and pointing out simply that the Book of Mormon is in the learning of the Jews. That's what it says. And yet for some hypnotic reason, psychological manipulation, the remaining Mormons, and even those who leave, they still believe the lies, they just are offended by the lies. Polygamy, that's awful. Whereas Mormons who remain want polygamy because Jesus approves. That's not the Jewish Christ, guys. You've been duped. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the cood church of Joseph Smith. This was not Joseph's church. These are not Joseph Smith's practices or administration. All you had to do is read. Your scriptures make it very clear this is not Joseph's church. There are too many violations of the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants. There are too many controversies, too many contradictions, because of turning the scriptures of Joseph Smith into literal history Christian interpretation, rather than the learning of the Jews, which are prophecies. And so you guys are clueless on both sides, because in case you hadn't been paying attention to me and the news, 3 Nephi chapter 7. I've got this separate video that I'll do, but because this is a comment reply. The Book of Mormon has come to pass. It is a fulfillment of prophecy now. Further, again, more. And Mormons miss it because they're thinking Christian Jesus. Think celestial. And so they miss that the Book of Mormon, 3 Nephi, chapter 7, the United States will divide into tribal groups. I had no idea that it was going to be over whether women should be slaves or free. But that was what the election was all about. Apparently our election here in Utah is not until the 21st, but we'll get to that. And so I have critics who come to my channel who still insist that Jesus is the Christ. I have Mormons who bear testimony that Jesus is the Christ. It's just abominable. Verse 19 of the 1838 Joseph Smith history. And Mormons don't say it. Jesus says you're abominable. Jesus is the abomination. So, in my comparative Mormon religion, Joseph versus Brigham Young, I had Edward Johnson. He's been asking questions for a little while now, and this is not a hate comment. He says, do I know about the biography of Benjamin Franklin Johnson? So apparently he missed the video I did recently repeating this. Because earlier this year I went over in more detail about him from his Wikipedia page. He was the Mormon who joined Joseph Smith's church, which was named the Church of the Latter-day Saints. And then in 1838, he moved his family to Adam-on-Diamond, where he was immediately arrested and threatened to denounce and deny Joseph Smith's Church of the Latter-day Saints. And so he says, according to the Wikipedia page, his rifle, pistol, whatever, misfired, and I never denied the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Wrong name, Ben. And so, knowing previously that Adam-on-Diamond was the secret headquarters for the Danites, when I got to Benjamin Franklin Johnson and I saw that he moved to Adam-on-Diamond and that they locked him up and threatened him to denounce and leave the church, I got further confirmation, and it's been an established fact. That's how you do real scientific research. Benjamin's story is just another confirmation establishing the facts of history that is in the Joseph Smith papers, but Mormons continue to deny. Even though they're the third great-grandsons and fourth great-grandsons, and the rising children are fifth great-grandsons of those original cooers of Joseph Smith. Because of that comparative chart, that's the difference. Every single thing is not the same. Brigham Young cooed Joseph's church, but took the Book of Mormon and the words of Joseph Smith, edited them, making corrections of the founding prophet, because he's wrong. Why then are you taking them? Oh, right, because everybody believes that, because the missionaries used those. They just called it another testament of Jesus Christ for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so thus they had to keep the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith's words. But they reinforced their changes, corrections, with forged documents as well to solidify it. And so these critics get offended from the forged documents, not knowing that they're forged documents, and so they blame Joseph, just like Oliver Cowdery was told that Joseph Smith changed the name of the church. He was offended. He was appalled. When David Whitmer came to tell him that the Danites threatened David Whitmer to do the Benjamin Franklin Johnson thing, but he refused and left and protected him and his family from the threat of the Danites. They're going to murder anybody who didn't conform and comply. And so he goes and talks to Oliver Cowdery, tells him that the Danites told him that Sidney Rigdon had turned Joseph Smith into a Danite and changed the name of the church. And Oliver Cowdery, in his little pamphlet, Defense, is offended. How could Joseph do that? And so, yeah, he also says that there were no plates. But did not deny his testimony that the Book of Mormon is inspired writing. You gotta pay attention, guys. Critics go, yeah, the Book of Mormon is a fraud. I'm for Oliver Cowdery. Dear God, guys. So, no, I don't need the biography of Benjamin Franklin Johnson. If there's a PDF version of it available online, link me to it. Don't just ask me about it. I'm collecting the history of the people. So if you know of an online PDF, link me to it so that I can then download it for the files. But nope. I'm supposed to do all the work myself. And so, Edward Johnson then blew it. He pulled a denialism stunt. Because you're supposed to catch on that these Danites caused election fraud in Daviess County. Started the Mormon War from that election fraud. Framed Joseph Smith. Had the judge and the sheriff sign that it was Joseph Smith threatening them to make these confessions. The order to arrest Joseph Smith and lock him up in Liberty Jail occurred. The Danites then went to the leadership of the church, David Whitmer, Thomas B. Marsh, others, leave the church or we're going to murder you if you will not join our Sith Lords, the Danites. Thomas B. Marsh, David Whitmer left. Thomas B. Marsh had nothing to do with milk scrapings from his wife stealing them. That was a lie, a Danite cover-up. And so, with the absence of a president for the Quorum of the 12 Missionaries, section 107, is it verse 21? It's right before how the president of the church is supposed to be selected differently. But each quorum, to have a majority to conduct business, as others were excommunicated from the missionary 12 for a sole purpose of voting for the new president to be Brigham Young. William Smith was kicked out of the 12 and excommunicated. And so when Joseph Smith got back out of Liberty Jail, he put the Danite expelled group persons who still stuck around the church back into the quorum. And so Orson Hyde was another one who got put back in. And what is interesting is that Orson Hyde would go on to then be loyal to Brigham Young thereafter, until Brigham Young in 1851 said that Adam was our Heavenly Father. And then Orson Hyde became a vocal, both in private and in public, opponent, saying that that was false. And so the year before Brigham Young died, knowing that Orson Hyde would become the president of the church, Brigham said, "You know that incident back in 1838 when I couped the church? You were kicked out. And when Joseph got back, he put you back in. And so we're now going to demote you to when you came back in to the 12. That is your new ranking." And so John Taylor then became the president of the church upon Brigham's death 3 years later. And so if you're not going to understand how the Danites are the ones who were plotting to overthrow the government in the latter days, you do not see the pattern. you have to see the pattern. Because what did we have? We had the Danites enter into our government in the United States of America. They call themselves MAGA. They are supporters of the Confederates. They are supporters of neo-Nazism. They are supporters of the KKK. All of which were branch-offs, just like the Danites were, from the Illuminati. They all have their little secret signs to indicate that they are from the Illuminati. And so, they are causing havoc in this nation. They're disregarding the Constitution. They want to restore a king on the throne of America. And they have designated Donald, the world ruler, to do so. Maybe name meaning. And so when the 2020 election then came along, after successfully frauding the 2016 election, which the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints also helped with the Council for National Policy. Steve Bannon is a member. He was the one that did the whole Facebook controversy with Russia. We're not going to go into that for this video. Just understand, 3.2K videos. I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing videos all these years. Collecting the information. Collecting the facts. I have associative memory. So all I need to do is get it written down into a reference book. Or abridge it. But it happened. The church was responsible for putting Trump on the throne. And then Trump comes and pushes a shopping cart for the first time in his life at Welfare Square. And so the 2020 election was purposely designed by the church too, with this Council for National Policy. They're trying to divide our nation. They want to destroy it. And so they need to cause chaos and havoc. And so Trump, surprisingly, backed off on the October surprise. He purposely ruined his chances of winning. And Biden clearly won from the popular vote. And thanks to some Americans who stood their ground and would not cave to the threats of the Danites, was able to successfully win in the key states that gave Biden the victory. And so, yes, Trump is now in trouble for his attempted coup. But yet the coup occurred nonetheless, just like after the Civil War. Those Danite Confederates attacked America to coup it militarily. And despite losing the war, you see indications that some of the laws that were created thereafter were in support of Confederate ideals. And especially the design of the streets for Washington, D.C., with the inverted pentagram pointing straight to the White House. The Danites were still there. And so Senator Mike Lee was caught calling for the coup of the government with his text messages. And the 14th Amendment, Section 3, says that every single government officer, not just Trump, who's Colorado and one other state I saw, also are trying to remove Trump from the ballot for violating the 14th Amendment, Section 3. No seditious conspirators in our government. And this is what they do. Everything in the First Amendment, read over it. MAGA wants to cause controversy with it for the sole purpose of making it null and void. Freedom of religion. Well, church, they're pushing the religious freedom movement. You've got it in the First Amendment. What are you doing? They want more. And the purpose is to not obey the Constitution, to not give rights to other citizens. And it's so that they can have their kingdom back, so that they don't have to be subjected to the laws of the United States. They want child bride polygamy back, as they're calling it, denying their religious freedom rights. And they're able to fool Mormons. Nelson went and changed the law of chastity, which I again redid that video for you the other day. And Mormons don't see it. Or they do see it because they know that they're Danite descendants. And that they're purposely lying to other Mormons, egging the other Mormons on. And so this coup has occurred because the Constitution has not been adhered to. Even though Americans did not prevent the certifying of the election, those government officers were not removed from office. The Democrats knew what they needed to do to save America and to restore it. They hesitated. They made excuses. And then in the Senate, that hesitation resulted in 2 of the Democratic senators switching sides and betraying the Democrats, purposely losing their chances. And so the 2022 election then comes, as still the Article 14th Amendment, Section 3, was not adhered to, and so that election, MAGA got more power. And they're using that to threaten America, to destroy it. And with the debt crisis that we had and the shutdown, we're on the verge of the other shutdown now from the extension. None of this should be happening had we followed the Constitution. Nobody wants to follow the Constitution. And so the elections yesterday had nothing to do with the 14th Amendment, Section 1. Nobody talked about it. Nobody ever talks about it. It's always about women's rights, pro-choice versus pro-life. The pro-lifers are trying to do it pro-baby, change the naming of it. But nobody wants to acknowledge the 14th Amendment, Section 1. They want their government their way. And they're trying to manipulate the public against the Constitution. And so now, because the Supreme Court justices violated the Constitution, overthrowing Roe v. Wade, now the states are divided as they're having separate votes, democracy, as to whether or not women should have rights or whether they should be slaves to the system again. And so I saw that there's some issues that I'll get more of this morning when I watch the news. But Ohio has granted women freedom. Yay! Isn't that nice of you, Ohio? That's so nice. Giving women freedom. That's great. None of this should be happening if we followed the Constitution. Freedom of speech. MAGA says, hey, we can lie. Freedom of speech to lie. Freedom of speech to use hate speech. Charlottesville. We have the right to demand that the Jews not replace us. We have the right that blacks need to go home. We have the right. No, you don't. But this is part of their problem. They're trying to cause confusion. Oh no, they do have the right to threaten us to keep us from exercising our freedom of speech. No, you don't. No. Freedom of speech is not to be threatening. Freedom of speech cannot prevent others from their freedom of speech. It is not considered freedom of speech when you use hate speech, when you lie, and thus the press. Well, Fox News, they were just exercising their freedom of the press. You can't take us down, Dominion voting machines. Freedom of the press. Yeah, they lost. And their viewers went to AON or Newsmax. God. And so again, those other companies are in violation of the Constitution. They are not legitimate press because they're purposely lying. They're using bias to overthrow America. That is not the freedom of the press. And so now, with this war against Israel, the majority of the press are violating the freedom of the press and lying to their viewers, saying that Israel is to blame. Israel needs to cease fire. Israel needs to stop their war crimes. Israel needs to stop their murders. They are not reporting the facts. If they reported the facts, we the people would see that Hamas and the Palestinians are to blame, that they are not innocent. And so when you watch the news, you cannot allow yourself to be hypnotized by them, to believe their opinions attached to the news stories. Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks. So upset and disappointed with her. And it could be because they brought in the comedian who had her own YouTube show that I enjoyed. She's hilarious, very sarcastic, just like Anna. And so I can see that by bringing her into the Young Turks now, after her show got canceled, that Anna is trying to impress her, trying to support her, because yes, she's against Israel too. But again, the Benjamin Franklin Johnson thing, betraying the truth, betraying an innocent, legitimate organization. And so, yeah, and there's others, if you just go over the First Amendment. Our government has been couped. Nobody's following the Constitution. The controversies are because nobody's following the Constitution. Department of Justice didn't hold anybody responsible. The FBI didn't hold anybody responsible. It's now come out in the news that, yeah, the FBI purposely didn't do anything. And then there were some excuses of, oh, well, Trump would be angry. So if you've not been paying attention to the news lately, Trump has threatened revenge and retaliation against all his enemies. And he keeps delaying and hesitating and trying to push to get the election in 2024 to come to pass. But yeah, he should have fled. He knows that something else is coming, the day that shall burn as an oven. He knows he's been promised assurances that all of this is just for show, to hype him up. There is something coming, and Joseph Smith warned you of it, and it's warned in the Book of Mormon. And you are seeing it happen. The states are dividing now. The national divorce. It's happening, and it's over women's rights. Alright. So, you are in denialism when you say that there was no coup. I even heard in the news they called it a slow-moving coup. But it's a coup in real time. That's why nobody sees it. It's because Trump's not in power. Trump's not taking away your agency, declaring martial law, and executing the deep state downs, and etc., etc., etc. It's all just threats right now, as they're tricking you into thinking all is well and there is hope, when we're not following the Constitution during all this time. Our government has fallen. So, penalty affixed to Mormons disobedient to the... There it is. Again, going over child bride polygamy. Mormons must obey. And so, Cool Beans 9899 posing with his baby child. Could be a son. I don't know. He says he got 3 seconds into this video. The majority of my 3.2K videos have the little title page that pops up on the screen. And it lasts for 7 seconds. And so he said he only read the title page of my video. Got 3 seconds in and read, penalty affixed to Mormons disobedient to revised 2019 Covenant Path Law of Sarah. It's not chastity. That's the cover-up to pacify the United States, taking away their religious freedom for child bride polygamy. And he had to stop. Couldn't you figure it out that that was the title of the video when you clicked on it? Now all of a sudden you're offended. And so he didn't watch any of the video. He just knows from the title that that must be what I'm talking about. Has no clue what I'm talking about because he didn't watch it. Says he got 3 seconds into the video and had to stop. The dumbass. And I feel sorry for the baby because he's indoctrinating the baby with his false doctrines. Just like Hamas is indoctrinating the Palestinian children with their, you must sacrifice your lives for Allah so that we can destroy and exterminate, genocidally eradicate from the face of the earth the Israelites. I couldn't get past this asymmetrical body language. Well, that indicates that you watched more than 3 seconds. And fake chuckling. It's not fake. I'm laughing. It's Isaac laughing. Mocking laughter. And so he's not commenting to me on my channel video. He's talking to you. He's trying to get a mob to agree with him and murder the beast. It's not kill the beast, Gaston. You're gonna murder him. That's the theme song in the description below. Kill the beast. So let it be written, so let it be done. So I don't forget. Need to get a new pad. I need to do a lot of things. And so he's assuming an interpretation of my body language as fake. Oops. He does not know how to use psychology to identify me, just like the algorithms online still have yet to figure me out. That was the whole thing with AI algorithms, so that they can know us and our behavior and then manipulate us to control our behavior. But it requires that they know exactly what we want and then be able to tell us what we want, and then we conform and comply. So Amazon, for example, their AI algorithms, they first find out all this stuff about us, about our shopping habits, such that they then, with their program, can know exactly what we want. And so then they advertise, and we're supposed to go, oh yeah, I'll click on that. Oh yeah, I probably should buy that. I have no need for it, but I should buy it. It's like stores used to try to do that for you. When you go into a Blockbuster Video, they purposely had you go straight into the store, but then when you try to check out with your new release that they didn't have available, so they forced you to find a family favorite that's just like it. They sent you through a maze of end caps of product to buy. They were trying to force you to see those and go, oh, I probably should buy those. When normally, if it was just all of that was removed and off to the side, nobody would ever go there to look to get it. It's only while you're waiting in the long line for your family favorite because they ran out of copies of the new release that you're going, oh, yeah, maybe I should get this. Maybe I should. And so Amazon is now able to take it to the next level with AI, as they're now able to see your specific behavioral patterns. That's the whole thing with Google search. They were recognizing your behavioral patterns. It wasn't about whether you're watching porn in your browsing history. Although they can use that for blacklisting purposes. It was so that they can know you, to manipulate you, to get you to do what they want you to do, to divide you into the psychological categories, and then judge you and treat you according to the name calling. And none of these systems have yet to figure me out. They can't do it. I'm very frustrating to them. And so YouTube, likewise, what they recommend is what they want you to recommend. They're telling you what to watch. And so I have people who come to one video of mine only because it was recommended for some reason. The algorithm failed for that video. And that's why I'm able to have breakout videos, is because of certain new people who watch my video, and then it gets spread to all of their subscribers, those who follow them. Otherwise, I'm back down to the 20 to 50 views per video. And so because he's now trying to incite a mob against me, to commit violence against me, to commit hate against me as he is doing, this is a very evil man, defending the church as he supposes. Because in his mind, Jesus is real. The Book of Mormon is lying when it says it's another testament of Jesus, or the learning of the Jews. He's replaced it with what the church told him to replace it with. Another testament of Jesus Christ. Not learning of the Jews. Another testament of Jesus Christ. Not the learning of the Jews. And so Mormons are purposely made dumb. Can't comprehend the Book of Mormon. Think it's the restoration of the gospel. It's the restoration of the gospel. It's not a warning of the day that shall burn as an oven and the utter destruction of you. It's the end of the Book of Mormon. Have you read it? And so he says he obviously carries a great deal of anger inside of him. Yes, my fake chuckling is anger. What a dumbass! Best of luck to this man. I hope he finds a better state of being. Bleep you, you mother bleeper. Dear God, such hate. And then Alex is backtracking on her comment. And then the final one, as this video will now allow me for breakfast and bathe and shave time. Correctly comprehending the Book of Mormon. Now there could be some more as of last night, but this was from yesterday. Cain, you is ocean. All one word. K instead of C, and U instead of YOU. And so I'm not confident. Actually, that could be a... It's an I. U is ocean, yeah. So correctly comprehending the Book of Mormon. Restoration of the gospel or a warning of utter destruction? Do you get to choose? Is it your free agency? No. The author is specific with his interpretation. It's the utter destruction of Mormons. That's why Joseph Smith's second vision is all about warning Mormons. The Book of Mormon, guys. I'm getting the Book of Mormon, and it's about a warning to us in the latter days. That utter destruction will come if you do not listen to your learning of the Jews Christ. Because Jesus is abominable. And so, this is a critic of the church. The Lie of Smith. Or is he a Mormon? See, this is the stupidity of critics. You're believing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints' lies. Because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints tells us that Joseph Smith was Christian and that Jesus is his Christ. But if you actually know how to read, you'd go, wait a minute, no. There's some problems here. It appears Joseph Smith, and yes he is, was the learning of the Jews. Likewise is the Book of Mormon, because it says so. And so what does this Cain person mean when the Lie of Smith? That he's the learning of the Jews? Nope. Because we see he's a Christian. As Cain, who murdered Abel. The lie of Smith, who foolishly reduced the nature? We have a Christian denialist of Christianity and Roman Emperor Constantine, who created the nature and character of Jesus with a brand new word that means not real, thus reducing the nature and character of the actual Christ to nothing. See how the Beeman moat is so awesome, and not a single person knows how to use it to judge righteously. He's talking about Trinity God by the Holy Eternal God, as he puts it all caps, to being just a glorified man. Yeah, that's the learning of the Jews, you anti-Semite. It was the Jewish authors who wrote the Gospels. And Constantine replaced them. And now you chant, Jews will not replace you. Bleepin' bleeper. Simply one God among countless other gods. No, they're called kings. And who claimed men can be gods. Yes. Mormons, who've been in the initiatories. Who do you become? Whose name do you now take upon yourself? Washings? High priest and high priestess. Ooh, interesting. Something Joseph Smith set up. But, oops. Not Brigham Young. That's Zadok in Hebrew. Anointing, to become hereafter kings and queens unto the Most High God, to rule and reign in the house of Israel forever. Preparatory to receiving your endowment. Oops, there's the falsehood. The initiatories are your endowment. That is Joseph Smith's endowment. You now take upon yourself the name of Christ. The baptismal covenant is that you are willing to take upon yourself the name of Christ by getting into the temple to do your initiatories, to become a king and a high priest, a queen and a high priestess. Melchizedek. Melech, Zadok. Melchizedek. Melchizedek is the name to replace the too frequent repetition of the actual name of the Christ. Ammon, the Egyptian sun god at noonday, who appeared to Joseph Smith again in both the first and second visions. The sun god at noonday. They were visions. They were not real, literal history. The abomination that Constantine did to the Jewish scriptures, turning the prophecies of the Jewish Christ into a literal history of Trinitarian Jesus, not real Jesus, during the Roman period time. That's what Joseph Smith means by abominable. And so, this person who believes that the Book of Mormon is another testament of Jesus Christ is now saying the Book of Mormon is one of Satan's masterpieces to restore the satanic church of occultism, turning Joseph Smith's history into literal history. Yes, it would be occultism. He would be correct if he weren't so wrong. He's denying the learning of the Jews because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has fooled him. Oh no! I'm supposed to click on that to get the fuller comment. Now I have to go online and find the rest of it. God was never a man. God is not a man. Men do not become gods. There is no marriage. Can't see any further. Bummer. But yeah, you can see his thinking process. He's been deceived by Roman Emperor Constantine. Jesus is real. I call him homuzion, which means not real, but he's real. He's just not real. We'll call him Trinitarian. So much hate because of ignorance. And ignorance leads to violence. Ignorance leads to hate. Hate leads to violence. And the hate can be in the form of verbal threats, denialism. And then the violence you can see manifested as people are telling me to shut up, to deny the learning of the Jews, to take off my ring, a symbol of the latter-day Christ of Joseph Smith. Yes, Star of David, but you also have to factor in the circle around it. That's the latter-day prophesied Jewish Christ. And there can only be one who can wield the ring. One ring to rule them all. Whatever it is.